Hi there, it's Larry Potsabinski about schizophrenia and living with it and related aspects. Uh, in this case, side effects of medication, continued part whatever from this last while. But so for those who weren't paying attention or were, or doctors monitoring me or whatever, watching me, observing me, the aripiprazole is out of my system now for 29.5 hours, 28, 29 hours. So, since the last half tablet dose, which was, I was started on 5 milligram tablets, and they were up to 10 milligrams, and that's what I was on for 20 years, which has caused the problem point in question here, condition in question. I had learned from always reading medical literature and things about my schizophrenia when first being diagnosed at age 17. But in those early years, several years later, I learned of tardive dyskinesia, which is showing up later involuntary movement disorder, tremoring of the fingers and stuff, involuntary movements of the expressions, wrong expressions and grimacing and so the nerves are burned away from the surface of the skin. And the tardive dyskinesia drug they put me on for this a year ago, September, which would have been 13 months ago, makes me feel with my fingers, with the skin, skin on my thumb, on the surface of my skin. I couldn't feel on the surface of my skin. The nerves were burned away. That's what tardive dyskinesia is. And it was considered permanent for 4 decades that I was aware of, until I could watch worrying about it because it was permanent, and the antipsychotics take cover up the damage they do, just making it worse. The first and second generation. So, the second generation, we needed to get me well in 1994 November. So that'll be a 30th anniversary this next month, and so I was on risperidone, or Risperdal it was branded. That made me well initially from profusely psychotic. If you don't know how I was from around town and hearing about how I was by people who were old enough to never remember and who knew at the time, then you can read my book, In the Grip of Paranoid Schizophrenia, 3rd edition. Maybe I'll put a link there on Lulu where they're at today at night with the eBooks. So they're only there. They're cheaper. But anyways, I had this horrible psychotic profuseness. It went on for like almost 20 years to the month before medication was approved by the FDA in this country, during which time I was stopped twice at gunpoint in 1987, 1994, that resulted in a year and then a 9 or 8 month stay in the hospital until I got the medication that made me well. I had to fight them with a grievance to get the Risperdal. Okay? So then 10 years later, internet's in, and it's going high speed, and I'm studying things like obscure things of my wildest imagination, and among them living with schizophrenia and aspects of it, and how to live with it. And I stumbled onto a paper that said Risperdal caused suppression in verbal fluency, so I learned later then that there was a 3rd generation antipsychotic that was supposed to help with things like that. Basically, I intuited out of what I read. So the MD agreed with me and wrote me for it, 5 milligrams of Abilify or aripiprazole added to the Risperdal. And then later we changed it to 10, and we were both happy, and we left it there for 20 years. She's gone now. I saw her for 20 years, and she's disappeared. I don't know where she moved on to, but wish her well. She was a good doctor, very good, extremely good, I thought. Anyways, in the course of being on the treatment for the tardive dyskinesia, I was studying, of course, the way I am online, with the Google Scholar search about the tardive dyskinesia and the medication for it and the symptoms and all that. And I stumbled on like about 4 or 5 different tardive movement disorders caused or can be caused by antipsychotic drug use. 20% of people who use them get tardive dyskinesia, and there's a treatment for that now. It was considered permanent for, like I said, for 40 years or so I was aware of. I was terrified by it. It's fueled my whole psychosis, the fear of it. Then later I learned the other tardive disorders, movement disorders, one called tardive dystonia causes, medical word I learned among many I looked up, bruxism, I think, as it is, grinding of teeth, and it causes many other symptoms. But it also causes scoliosis, which I suffer from for about the same time. The aripiprazole was added to the Risperdal, which is one profile that says those two combine cause scoliosis, and the overall profile says for lifelong use was early first generation use of medication that causes tardive dyskinesia real bad, and then followed by second generation use and even third generation use. So can cause so anyways, this aripiprazole was the first third generation drug apparently, and so once I convinced my psychiatric provider with this information, and I'm working in conjunction with my primary, and who's going to get the reports back from all this, and the physical therapist specialist who's coming this week to study my 2.5 weeks of my monitoring it on my own by limiting the muscle relaxer from 10 milligrams with a pill cutter to 7.5, which it also comes in, I'm aware of, and and only when needed instead of every 8 hours, which has been every 24 to 36 hours. Okay, so then at the same time, since this is Wednesday, last Thursday actually, I started on that night on Vraylar, Vraylar, newer third generation antipsychotic. We narrowed it down to that, the psych provider and I had an hour-long conversation a week ago Monday. So then Monday this week when my aide came, I had been on it for the weekend and tapering down on 0.5 milligram of tablets she cut for me because the aide cut for me because I couldn't cut those little tiny tablets. So I took the 5 days worth of half a tablet, 5 milligrams of Abilify, and now today's the first day I haven't had any. And when I took them last time I took one, my muscle cramps, finger cramps started again. Okay, so it was an antagonist inside my body, my nervous system. It caused involuntary movement disorders. So it had worked on my brain and caused rapid speech or fast talking or pressured speech, they call that, a psychiatric symptom. But there's a medical word for that too, talking too much, too fast. I don't know the word. I look up words that I don't remember. But the Vraylar causes a little bit of evening drooling, which is not there in the morning all day long either. So I take it in the evening. So the amantadine will probably adjust. These kind of drugs you have to adjust to over a period of a few days to a few weeks, a few months to most. But 6 to 8 weeks, they used to say in the old days. You know, when I said there was a UFO the government was using replicated UFO technology in my book, in the Grip of Paranoid Schizophrenia, third edition is the one. But you know, when I said there was a hurricane made by replicated UFO technology the government was using, I was carted off to the local state hospital for that, medicated, till I realized it was not true. Okay, I had no basis to say that. So, anyways, that's no reflection on today. Just it was saying what was once psychotic and you were carted off for it, been normalized today, it seems. If I look out at the periods of society, which I don't care to because it's too sick. I don't believe in the American way, like the rest of the Americans are going crazy, arguing left or right. And left, right, conservative, liberal, and a couple other words ought to be taken out of the American English language and banned from being used. It just causes fights and arguments. My dad always taught me never to argue about two things you don't argue about: politics and religion. So don't talk to me about either. Anyways, psychology-wise, the schizophrenia. So the aripiprazole's out of my system now. My mind is clearer. My perception of the world around me is sharper and more three-dimensional and in focus. Plus, my pain level is less. Now, I was using a new supplement lately made from pineapples called bromelain, which you can take it with 4 tablets a day. I take one with meals, I take 4 tablets a day, but every so often, but throughout the day. And it's for pain, swelling, and inflammation, made from pineapples, bromelain. That's all I can tell you. But I don't know how to spell it. I don't know how to spell it, but these were medical words and generic words. I don't speak that language. I understand what I'm doing with it, but I don't necessarily can explain it. But so the aripiprazole out of my system, anyways. So I feel less pain. I'm in less pain. I haven't had to take any acetaminophen for a few days now, and I used to have to eat that like a few times a day. And I wasn't on much morphine for pain. I'm still on a small amount of something gabapentin, but otherwise there's not much else I take for pain. But with the aripiprazole out of my system, the pain is lessened because this is the amazing thing. The aripiprazole also stripped the hair off my head, defoliated my head and my body to some degree, major degree. And that would cause extreme hair loss. And the risperidone causes hair loss. So that combination, thank you for making me no longer a hippie. So anyways, so the main thing I wanted to say about the aripiprazole, I said this is getting long again. I think over there I can see that. But the curvature of my spine, I showed to the physical therapist specialist who's coming back this week to summarize this for everybody. And my experiment was how to deal with this pain, because the physical therapy exercises were causing pain in my right hip, no matter what exercise I did, even the simplest one. So all I can do is walk. Walking doesn't cause any pain. I have to stop every so often for my back pain suddenly acting up and making me stop. But going on a joint or whatever it does, I don't know. But so is this going to get better? It's getting better already, because as I speak, not having the aripiprazole in my system, the curvature of the spine goes from out of the pelvic bone in the back here. It curves amazingly to the right, and then on the first three sharp vertebrae, sharply curved to the right, which is pinching the nerves to the right hip when I'm exercising, which causes the pain. Okay, that makes sense to them. So medically, so then with it out of my system now, the aripiprazole, I can feel less pain, and I feel like the muscles are surrounding that portion of the spine, because it curves from there over to the right, and then over to the left about the shoulder level. Then my left shoulder is usually lower, but that's how the curve goes. But on X-rays, I got and showed the physical therapist. I finally got my X-rays, but I can't share them with you. I wish I could, but you'd believe me then. But so anyway, but the muscles pulling that curvature to the far right, the muscles seem like they were clenched around that muscle, pulling it that way. And now without the aripiprazole in my system, it doesn't feel clenched anymore. It's loose. It's not painful. Will I walk better now? I hope so. It stands to reason to me. So intuitively, knowing myself better than anyone else, this is a good prognosis now. Better prognosis anyway, than it was prior to my experiment to explore with the muscle relaxer lowering and just sticking it out and trying to work and deal around the pain and find a way not to motion myself with my posturing, my motioning through the day, watch my motions so I don't trigger that right hip pain, which hasn't bothered me for a couple of weeks. So I'm doing something right. And the physical therapist will summarize this for the primary, and I wanted the psych nurse to get this too, because it's her department, practitioner. So it's all under control, and it's a good prognosis. Yeah, I don't feel like clenching my spine anymore like it was. I can get up off the fucking chair. They're so low, everybody complains.